Welcome back to the 100K 2024 season preview show, where we have a list of questions we're doing for every single team, Das. We are currently up to the Fremantle Dockers.
I'm very good, my friend. The Freo Heave-Ho. So this is our second interstate side I believe we're going to get into. So as you did mention, Jev, if this is your first episode you're listening to, a list of questions that we are going through for each side. If you love this episode and you do like another side, go have a listen back because it is the same criteria as we go through for each episode. So let's kick off the Freo Dockers, Jev. Last year, finishing 14th on the ladder with a record of 10-13. So that's how they finished last year.
Disappointing.
Very disappointing, especially after the few years before. So our first question, Jev, give it to me. Competition A graders. Who are Freo's competition A graders, if they have any or many?
I reckon Brayshaw and Sarong are A graders, aren't they? They're both fucking guns. They're the only two I had. There was guys I thought they had more, but if you're finishing 14th and you're 10-13, then you don't have more. Andrew Brayshaw, Caleb Sarong are both competition stars. I think it's pretty undeniable. Do you agree?
100%, Jev. They are the two absolute top liners in that side. So a couple of the elite categories in which they both are. So Sarong averaged 30.7 disposals per game last year, 7.7 clearances, 14.4 contested, and this is a massive one, 9.4 ground ball gets, which is like top 5 in the league. So when the ball goes to the deck, so he's super inside. And Andrew Brayshaw, Jev, we forgot, he came second, 2 years ago, 4th in the Brownlow with 25 votes.
And then he won the AFL MVP, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So that's a fucking impressive award to win. He was like 21.
That was the year that Cripps won, I believe.
Yeah.
So he had 25 votes, Jev. So he was just behind Tuke Miller. But same thing, last year averaged 29.2 disposals, 19 uncontested. So a little bit more uncontested than he does to Sarong. And last year he went 74.4% by foot. Through all disposals, which is pretty crazy if you look at, because they do take into consideration like those clearances as well. So that can go to 50-50s and that can make your percentage go down. Both elite by foot. They are easily their top two players in that side, Jev.
They're both absolute 100K favourite cash cows. Like, you can always rely on them. Freo can always rely on them. They just need a bit of a down year. They need to take their game to when it equals winning. You think Nick Dacos and Jordan De Goey, they equal winning football. They just need to switch that little bit. When they come up against Petrarca and Oliver, they need to be able to go head-to-head and fucking beat them, which they usually do on the MTG, those two. But like Cripps and Walsh, like you could easily have Brayshaw and Sarong as the best duo in the league, or you could say they're the 10th best duo in the league sort of thing. So this year they sort of need to take that leap of just winning football. While you're on fire, Das, position A graders. Who did you have for position A graders?
I've only got one in their side, and that's Luke Ryan, Jev. He's a very good footballer. You'd love someone like this in your side. 24 disposals a game he usually gets. He goes by 88.9% disposal efficiency, 7.3 rebound 50s a game, and 7 intercept possessions. He's by far, when he gets the ball, he goes out and he hits the targets, he gets them going, and he does like to play that loose role. Has been, definitely their rock down back. He would be their only real position A grader I would have. Would you have anyone?
Well, I've got two.
Yeah.
I think Sean Darcy is an A grade ruckman in the comp when he's fit.
Yes.
And I think he will be this year. Then I also think Luke Jackson is borderline an A-grade ruckman, or let's say an A-grade weapon in this comp. But there's an old saying in the NFL, Das, if you've got two quarterbacks, you've got no quarterback. It just didn't really work last year. The Jackson and Darcy, they're both not that good of forwards. They're both really good ruckmen, but they need a lot of time. Luke Jackson's like a mid, but he can't play mid if Darcy's in the ruck. I think they're both position A graders, but it just didn't work at all last year.
We obviously looked at Melbourne and how that worked, and I can't wait till we get to Melbourne because I think that they could potentially have just absolutely done themselves a mischief. But if they can get this right, Jev, I believe that it could work in their favour so well. Like, how can it not if they're two very good players, but yeah, unsure exactly how the Freo are going to get it to work, but they're too good at players to not
They're
get
just
it to
paying him
work.
so much money. But like Luke Jackson won Melbourne a flag. That third quarter when Gawn was on the bench and he just exploded for 10 minutes. Like it was just unbelievable. He's got so much talent. So yeah, it's funny. I think they're both position A graders, but then again, it's like if you got two ruckman, you nearly don't have one in a way. And Melbourne found that out last year with the Grundy Gawn thing. Yeah, anyway. So notable role players. I reckon we'll have a lot of the same because there's a lot of guys I really like on their list. They just maybe had down years last year. So notable role players. Das, who you got?
So mine, he's been a very favorite one to bet on in the 100K as well. So that's why usually when you go through the list, yeah, I try, like with all of them, I try and have a quick look and then think about why exactly I like him. And he was one that we usually bet on as well. But Hayden Young, Jev, is a great ball user. And especially for their side, like he's the number one I'm really focusing on this one. But it really showed he came fifth in their best and fairest last year. He's elite by foot, left footer. He's a little bit up and down. Like he doesn't get those monster possession games. He's had a few like high 30 possession games, but he just doesn't get enough of it. But he's very reassurance down back. Him and Luke Ryan, obviously, if he's their number one A backman, he's pretty much their 2IC guy. Like they love the ball in his hands. And he much more reassurance when he gets it off the half back line. Who else would you have as big notable role players?
Well, yeah, I wrote Hayden Young. I wrote Luke Ryan. Just didn't have his A grade. And then Brennan Cox is a good player. Remember when he had like 25 marks against the Saints earlier in the year?
Real early, yeah.
Jordan Clark from Geelong is a good halfback flanker. We both like Jai Miss. We like the future Jai Miss. Michael Walters is still a guy, and Mickey Frederick is a guy. But Das, I like their list. I like their players. I like the Dockers. But you know how Perth is 3 hours behind Melbourne? It felt like Freo were 3 years behind the competition last year. I remember the late, great Matt Rendell would say, you can't win a premiership in preseason, but you can lose one. It felt like Freo cost themselves the premiership or their whole season in preseason last year. They just got it wrong from the bounce. They tried to stick to their defensive zone possession football when Collingwood and Geelong clearly showed at the end of 2022 it's speed on the football. It's kicking it to one-on-ones down the line. It's backing your talent. And Freo just missed a trick on the whole competition last year. I don't know if it was a bit of a Western Australian bias where they might think, you know, they know footy better than Geelong and Collingwood. They know footy, but they just cost themselves a season. Now we're going to be, you got to grade them harshly. I cannot grade them as they're going to play finals in 2024 because they were horrible last year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with exactly how that last bit of ranking that you gave them. So let's get into their depth, Jev. So you can pretty much pick any category here that you want, but depth, it's a bit of a question.
Yeah, depth. So same thing I said with Essendon in the last pod. Is it depth or is it not enough AFL standard players? When you're average and finishing towards the bottom end of the ladder, you got to ask if the guys coming up for the twos are really gun depth players or they've only got 18 AFL listed players on their list and their twos and one sort of start mixing and they haven't got the full talent. What did you write down for depth?
Yeah, my big concern is who's going to kick the goals. So you got Schultz is gone, Walters and Fife are getting another year older. You've re-signed two ruckmen in Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson, but what one of them's actually going to play forward? So as we said before, like what exactly is that role? Matt Taberner is averaging under a goal a game, and then you're putting all your eggs in the one basket for a young kid that's only played 25 games in Jai Miss. He had a really good season last year with 41 goals. That's averaging 1.9 a game, which is great. But the Dockers ranked 11th last year in goals per game. So they averaged 11.8 goals. So I'm not sure they're going to get anywhere near that this year, Jev. With their forwards, is Michael Frederick going to kick 35, 40 goals? I honestly don't know where they're kicking their goals. I think that they're getting worse. I don't think they're going to get any better. That's where I'm thinking. I'm not sure exactly with everyone how well defensive they are. Like who's jumping up and taking these big pack marks and bringing it to ground? I'm really concerned for their forward line. So with their depth,
good. How good the competition is too good. If you don't, like look at them next to Adelaide. Adelaide have Tex, Rankin, Thilthorpe, Fogarty, and just like and Rochelle and just like top 10 draft picks in that forward line. And you look at Freo's forward line, or Geelong have Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins, Stengel, Brad Close, like all Australians and guns. Then you look at Freo's forward line, there's just nothing that excites me.
There is nothing.
Or like you look at Carlton, you got the best forward in the comp, then you got Mackay, and you're like, and there's just nothing at Freo that excites me. Maybe we're being a bit Melbourne snob, but like, yeah, I like their back line, I like their midfield, but you got to kick goals to win the game. Are they going to kick enough goals?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Jev, who are some young guns that you've had a look at?
Yeah. This might be my Melbourne bias and Melbourne snobbery, Das, but as soon as Freo are shit, I lose interest in them and I don't watch them enough. I don't see who their young stars are. I love all their sort of 22-year-old players like Brayshaw, Sarong, but I don't know about any young guns. I like Jai Miss. As I said, he turns 20 this year, but apart from that, yeah, I don't really know what Freo's depth is. Oh, well, like who their young star on the rise is. What did you write down for young guns?
I Jai Miss obviously because it's only his second season, but I actually had a really good look. Last couple of years, I've sort of been invested in the draft a little bit. Like we know some players are like hoping to get drafted. So there was a kid, Cooper Simpson, went pick 35 from the Stingrays, an elite runner, was going to be a potential top 10 pick, and did his ankle the first championship game. Right. So he didn't play any of his under 18. And the tape that they do have on him, I remember watching on TV, I'm like, this kid is absolute lightning, and was messaging a few people after like, no, this kid could be a freak. Right. So Cooper Simpson should come into their side.
One to watch. Good.
He's just lightning. So yeah, they reckon he could have been top 10, but literally like did his ankle first championship game, miss out on the whole thing, was in the leadership group. So Cooper Simpson is a name to look out for, Jev. Will potentially get a Rising Star nomination early in the season. Our next one, so we got Dark Horse All-Australian. So you can either pick someone that's been on the cusp or real Dark Horse, however you want it, Jev. Is there someone that could potentially get into the ranks this year?
Yeah, Dark Horse. I wrote one of these three. The three we like: Brennan Cox, Hayden Young, Luke Ryan. All good footballers, who maybe one of them gets in, maybe one of them takes an absolute leap. I know in WA they are so bullish on Hayden Young. They reckon he's like a superstar in the making. So is it him this year that maybe like is a mix of half-back and mid, and he gets it like a bench spot on the All-Australian side? What about you, Das?
Yeah, he's the only one that I put down as like a real dark horse. Like Luke Ryan's been thereabouts. Strong and Brayshaw have both made one, but Hayden Young is a dark horse exactly because that's what if he can have a really clean season and like they can win games and you can just see him just dominating with the ball in hand. Yeah, definitely probably one of those bench spots. I agree.
Coach Captain, Das. Coach Captain. What did you write down for Coach Captain?
Well, I don't think this is too much of like an oversight, but I just think this is Longmire's last season and Alex Pearce's last season as captain. I just think that they missed a trick so badly not giving Brayshaw or Sarong the captaincy. One of those boys, and I think the team would have been expecting for those guys to lead them up. They've picked fucking Alex Pearce. Like he's locked down back and he doesn't talk. He gets bath every third week. Like how are you looking up to him? Like John Longmire as well. I had a chat to you the other day, and we can relay this over most episodes, but there's something about coaches that have had success, which when they're looking at their team, like they're only going to ask for what they've done. Like they're never going to ask for extras, and like they understand what the standard is. Voss, Sam Mitchell's going to be a great coach. Craig McRae, you look at both the Scott brothers. They've won so much success with their football, and look at all their teams coming through. John Longmire's like, what's he won?
Nothing.
Nothing. So where's this success? I'm not sure that. I don't know what their plan is, but for him and Alex Pearce, I think it's a very odd couple. And if we're ranking all the coaches and captains, they would be down my bottom 2 or 3. What about you?
No, the worst in the league. I don't even think it's a hot take. Alex Pearce came top 3 in the reverse Coleman last year. He'd be the worst player that's a captain in the league, wouldn't he? By an absolute mile. And then Justin Longmuir.
He's just taken over. He's just taken over from Jonas because he's retired.
Yeah, he stank. And then Justin Longmuir instantly starts the season on the hot seat, doesn't he? He's the guy that could be the first coach fired by round 10. And then also knowing Andy Brayshaw was annoyed he wasn't named captain last year, and I think they tried to get the experience. Like, I don't think this is a hot take. And I reckon Freo fans would agree. Coach captain on this list we've written, they are the worst in the league at this.
That 100%. When I was looking through, I'm like, this dead set looks like the worst.
Yep, for sure. I ranked 18th. Like we're about to do strength of schedule and it's ranked 1 to 18. They are ranked 18th for me in coach captain by a fucking mile.
They'd be bottom 2, definitely. So we're going to get into the next one. So strength of schedule. So judging off all the rankings from last season, who teams are doubling up on. So 1 being the easiest schedule and 18 be the hardest ranked. Freo have the 7th ranked schedule. So on the easiest side, Jev, have you had a look at the notable home games?
Yeah, so I like their draw. I like the look of this. So first they need to make Optus Stadium a fortress. They need to start with making that a fortress. So they play Brisbane at home round 1. Then they play North Melbourne in Melbourne. Then it's Adelaide at Optus Stadium. Then Carlton at Optus Stadium. Yes, they play 3 out of 4 hard teams to start the year. But if they're good at home and it's early in the year, they could be 4-0 or 3-1 if they get their year off to the right start. Why can't they beat Brisbane round 1, Optus Stadium? Brisbane had just played Carlton Thursday night at the Gabba. You know, 1 injury, they come to Freo. They should nearly win that game. So, like, I'm looking at their schedule. I'm bullish on their schedule. I think they're a chance to start 3-1, 4-0. But if they're going to be shit again, they're just going to start 1-3. They're going to lose 3 home games out of the first 3, and it's going to be a shit year again. What did you write for notable home games?
I think this is a terrible schedule for them. I do not see them winning. Brisbane at home, no. Adelaide, no. Bulldogs will push them. Sydney push them. Gold Coast will. Richmond will even give them a fight. Melbourne, West Coast in a derby, Geelong then Port.
So you're tough on them. You're going through the tough route on them.
100%. And then, so on that Carlton one, I would have accidentally flipped. So even though it's their home game, we're versing them at Adelaide Oval because that's the gather round. So they're not even getting that one at home.
Yeah.
And then their other away games, Port, Melbourne in Alice Springs, the Dogs, the Swans, the Hawks in Tassie, Giants, only 2 MCG games and 3 at Marvel. All their other away games are in like Tassie, Alice Springs. I think this is terrible for them.
See, I think their schedule is actually good. So, like, when I went to the notable away games, I'm like, so they go to the SCG, they go to Adelaide Oval to play Port, and they go to Giants Stadium.
But they're not winning them.
D's in Darwin. And then I think it jumps out to me sort of how favourable it is. Like, if we're on the optimistic side and they beat either Freo, Adelaide or Carlton and North Melbourne at the start, they can be 2-2. Then they play the lesser teams at home at the back of the year. I don't know. I thought it looked favourable looking at it, but I like that you're on the opposite side to me and you just think it's rough as guts. I like it.
I think it's so rough. Like, D's at Alice Springs, that's Cozzy kicking 8. Like that's the Cozzy Pickett game. I look at their draw. Hawks in Tassie, they're not winning. Giants, no. They're not beating you guys at the SCG. Like, I think we beat them gather round. And then Brisbane, like, I don't like their chances, Jev. So let's get into the next part then. What is their floor? So what is their bottom win? So last year, so let's just quickly recap. They won 10 games. So they went 10-13, and that was quite disappointing. What would you say that their floor of wins is?
Like 7, 8, 9 win side, I reckon. I wrote down their absolute worst is probably an 8 win, 9 win, probably 8 win side, I reckon. What about you?
I had 4.
4. So you are so tough on their schedule.
4-19. I don't like their list at all. I look at these games and I'm like, as a floor, they're a bottom 4th side.
Wow,
they're like 4 wins.
Like North Melbourne, West Coast territory.
Yeah, this is the floor.
Wow, you are out on the Dockers. I love this. I love this.
Absolutely out.
So what did you write down for their ceiling of wins?
9 wins.
Wow.
I have them a 9-win side.
Is your ceiling?
I said they don't even have easy wins at home. I think they've got a hard draw. I think that they win. Like, if they win 9, I think they're going to be worse than last year. They won 10 games last year. I think they're going to win 9.
Wow.
Or under.
I think they could be a 12, 13, push 14 win side. Like, absolutely 14, but I would say like 12 and a half mark, I reckon. I think
There's too many other teams coming up.
Like they've gone from finals to a down year where I think they just missed a trick on the comp. I think they're going to come back up again and they'll be at that 10, going for 11, going for 12. But you're just out on them. You think no?
Well, as I said, I haven't gone through all the teams yet. Obviously, we haven't done all of them. But when I went through and like alphabetical, I'm like, well, they're going to be thereabouts. They're up, they're like down, and like I just like quick. I'm like, I think that they're like no,
they're in trouble. Fuck.
Yeah.
So what would you guess the over under would be? We're still not. I know the over under on Sportsbet has just come out. We're still not going to look. We're going to take a guess, and we're going to do a pod at the end of all the over unders. So what would you guess their over under would be?
I wrote 8.5.
Yeah, I wrote 9.5. I think you're being nice from what you're hearing. You probably think it should be 7.5 by what you're hearing.
Well,
I wrote 9.5. If they were a
8.5,
10-win side last year, if it was set at 9.5, it'd be hard. If it was set at 10.5, you'd smash the under and I'd just leave it.
100%.
If it was 9.5, I reckon I'd take the over.
Yeah. So, and then look, remember, so we're going to look at the ladder from last year. So it's very easy to say over under, but we're going to figure out how many wins you can actually give out. And then we're going to go through just so, because you can't press over on every team or else a big multi wouldn't work. So once we've sort of got this calculation, we're going to go through and actually put on our futures multis. But I'd be going under, Jev. What is your hot take if you have one on the Dockers?
Well, with what I think their schedule is and how favourable I sort of think it is, which is funny when I look at it, Justin Longmuir is starting on the hot seat. And if they start 2-5, 2-6, he will be the first coach fired by an absolute mile. And it's probably not even a hot take. He will be gone. Absolutely gone. First coach fired this year. What is your hot take?
Yeah, I'm backing you up, Jev. John Longmire, more like John Gonemeyer. Bottom four side for me, Jev. Make Sarong captain or he's off to Tassie. That's it.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, so we're on two different scales of free. I like that. It's one team we completely are in and out of. But I guess I've been pretty kind to every team. I've been saying they're all going to be good because it's pre-season. So there has to be some shit sides.
I think their home game, Brisbane are a good side. Adelaide are a good side. The Bulldogs are still there. The Swans, Gold Coast, I've got potentially as a final side. Richmond, no, but Melbourne, they'll be back into the year, need to play finals. West Coast, young kids, Derby, then Geelong and Port.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked. I don't see Fremantle being any good this year. I don't see him kicking goals.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you can't kick enough goals, you're in trouble. So that is Freo Das. It has been fun as always. We're up to Geelong next. I'm starting to look at my Geelong notes as we're talking. I'm excited about talking about the Cats. Excited about do we grade them again on their 2022 premiership, or do we grade them how we graded them last year, or do you meet in the middle and sort of like I'm excited about talking about the Cats.
I'm happy to meet in the middle. Just whatever you come through with, because we'll still get the over-unders at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, for sure. All right, see you, mate. Good work.
See ya, mate.